What is going on, you guys? Dr. Tiger back with another video, and I'm going to explain in detail how I got a payout from one account on Top Step. I've been trading for around 5 months. I am a relatively beginner trader, and I've been able to get a payout pretty early in my trading journey, and I wanted to review every single trade from eval to payout that allowed me to get to this point. Um, and I'm going to be reviewing all the confluences, how I like the setup, what I learned from each trade, etc., etc. I first began this account on January 9th of 2026, and as of the creation of this video, I should be at the payout stage. I am one winning trade away from getting it currently, so I just thought I'd start out this video. I'm feeling extremely confident, and I will add another clip at the end of the video to talk about the trade that ended up getting me there. But let's just dive right into this. So I trade reversals and IFEGs. I have learned from my mentor, Duji Trade, shout out to him. And I've also been inspired by PB Trading and Dodgy. I previously used to trade the ICT 2022 model, but that ended up failing, and I had to readjust. And again, keep in mind, I am a relatively beginner trader. I have only been trading for around 5 months. I started in September, and I'll make a more detailed video explaining my story and my background if you guys are interested in that. But I say we just jump right into this. So I started my eval on Friday, January 9th, and on this day, I had a bullish bias. So keep that in mind. We end up sweeping London low and create a 2 minute. We did not inverse this gap. However, we were extremely close to inversing it. And since I was on an eval, eval trades are interesting to me because I want to take A plus setups on evals, but at the same time, I want to pass them quickly and want to trade them aggressively. So I felt conviction that this 2 minute would get inversed. It basically, I think it actually was inversed on MNQ. It was very close to inversing. So I entered there. I put my stop loss below the inversion and my TP at a $1,500 day. Now, something I will critique about this trade that I know that I want to do better for the future and do going forward is that my stop loss should probably have been below the inversion low at this London low, because we could have retested this area and potentially wicked past it and therefore hitting my stop loss. But the safer stop was definitely at the wick of the inversion, which was at London low, basically. And yeah, I ended up securing a $1,500 day on this day. And I followed my rules on this day. So I started off the eval great, and there were some additional confluences as well. I typically, what's part of my rules is that I like to see a 5+ confluence setup in order to take it. And I trade off, again, reversals. So ideally, I want to take a trade off a liquidity sweep, an inversion, delivering from a high time frame gap. What else? Potentially looking at equilibrium or SMTs, looking at displacement, and targeting opposing liquidity. So those are all potential confluences that I would have done. And I will say, if I had taken this trade, I would have again had the better stop loss size and probably just targeted the untapped 15-minute gap. It ended up being a little bit different RR because I was trading on an eval aggressively. So that was my first trade. The second trade on my eval also was a win, and it was a pretty high confluence long. I really liked this long. It was a continuation setup. I don't have the higher time frames pulled up, but this was we pumped off of open. We took out some of the draws, and then we got a nice retrace into a 5-minute gap, and we made a 2-minute inversion. This is an A plus continuation long setup, and my break even point was here, and I wanted to target the new week opening gap. My stop loss size was I think I accidentally under risked on this trade, and because I under risked, I needed to target slightly above the new week opening gap in order to make $1,500. And what happens? Of course, we tap the new week opening gap and then start respecting it. But ES had not taken the new week opening gap yet, and so I told myself, okay, if ES takes this new week opening gap, then I will close. And that's what happened in this green candle right here. So I ended up closing for around like a 1.5R or something like that. And also followed my rules here. So overall was feeling pretty good about that one as well. All right, boys, I'm back. I took a massive dump, so that is why I had to take a break. But now I am moving on to the XFA, and just for full transparency purposes, I did pass my eval with CPI. I was like $500 away, and I was advised by my mentor that this is something I could do, and he kind of taught me how to do it. It was a really fun experience. But anyway, I passed my eval with CPI, and this was my first trade on the XFA, and it was a break-even trade. I really loved this trade. It was an A plus continuation longs setup. We had CPI on this day, I believe. Yeah, I mean, that's what passed me the eval. But anyway, we swept the low into a 15-minute gap, into a 5-minute gap, and we end up creating a 3-minute manipulation leg. We get a 3-minute inverse up, to me, suggesting that we are going to take data high. This was the most brutal break-even trade ever. As you can see, we basically pumped all the way to my TP, and then we edge it, and then we dump all the way to break-even again. So an absolutely brutal trade. I really like this trade. We had some additional confluences as well, but was really proud of how I played this one for my first trade. On Wednesday was my first loss, and see, notice how like you can still come back from a loss on an XFA. This was my first loss on the XFA. I feel like first impressions are everything in life, and also on this account, like a loss on the first trade is going to be kind of destructive for your mental, but you just have to trust the winning statistics, trust your models, trust yourself, and you'll be able to build it back like I did. So this was my first loss, and something that I've learned this month, and you'll hear more about this from me in these next in the next loss, I believe, that I end up taking, is that overextended continuation trades are very unlikely, very less probable to work. And what I mean by overextended is that when we take out so many high time frame draws, that is an extremely risky play, because when we've taken out so many high time frame draws, there are not many reasons for price to go in the direction you want it to anymore. And so this is kind of what happened to me. We basically dumped 200 points off open. I don't have the full screenshot on screen, but yeah, like if you can see from 9:30, we basically dump hella. I mean, as you can see, we at 9:30 up here, we were at like the 740s, and by 10 o'clock, we were already at 540. And so I should have realized that we're going to like shorts are less probable at this point. But what ended up happening is that on my trade, we end up getting a 5-minute gap tap on this retracement leg up, and then we get a really nice, strong 1-minute inversion to the downside. And I really liked this at the time. It was a 30-point displacing candle. In my opinion, this red candle right here was very displacing, and I had my stop loss above the inversion high and my TP at the sell side, the high time frame sell side I marked out here. And what frustrated me is that this trade ended up playing out later, but this was after we got a higher time frame retracement and then some higher time frame inversions to the downside. And so I think overall, like I had my draw on liquidity correct, and that is what I care about. I care about being able to correctly understand where the market's going to go. And I knew that we were going to go down to the sell side at this point. However, we were just extremely overextended without rebalancing any of this range on the higher time frame. And when we're that overextended and when we're that imbalanced, shorts are automatically less probable, especially because we had already taken out so many sell side levels. I think we took out like London low. I don't know. I might have mentioned it up here. No, I don't think I did. But there were tons of different sell side draws that were high time frame that got taken, and I just have to keep that in mind. I ended up taking another continuation loss later in the month, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm only going to go over the days I took trades. So the next day on Thursday, I did take a win. I'm not going to lie, this was kind of a lucky setup. This was a little bit of a pattern trade. And yeah, so it ended up being very choppy on this day. But we did sweep sell side going into the open. We swept sell side. We swept it into a 15-minute gap. And we ended up inversing this 2-minute gap right here on this candle. And I decided to go long thinking that the 930 high would be hit, and it basically got hit instantly, and I top ticked it. And I basically took a 2 to 1. Was this a plus? No, it was not. We did not break above this wick. This wick is very concerning to me. I don't like to see that when I'm taking my inversions because it indicates hesitation to go higher. But ultimately, at the end of the day, ended up working out. So again, was this the highest confluence? No, but I felt convicted in it enough to take it on my XFA. So on this Friday, I did not trade. On Tuesday, I believe Monday the 19th was Martin Luther King Day, so obviously did not trade that. What's funny is that this trade I actually took at jury duty, and this was managing this trade was very interesting because I was on my phone, and this was my first time trading on my phone. And as you can see in this trade, this internal high would have been my break-even point, and I had no idea like managing the position on my phone wasn't working, so I wasn't able to move to break even in time. So I kind of just told myself, okay, I'm going to hold the position, and I ultimately did, and then ended up ripping to TP. I was able to move to break even on this leg because I had figured out how to at that point. But anyway, this was a nice setup. I liked the trade. It was I believe it was a 5-minute gap tap, a continuation long. We tapped into a 5-minute gap. We got a 1-minute inverse from the manipulation leg. Definitely love this trade. It would have been a break-even trade, but and again, was this a plus? In my opinion, not really. I mean, I didn't really love the displacement on this candle, but it was good enough for me to take it, I think. And yeah, I just, something that you can notice is that I have been following my rules. I've been sticking to my trading plan. I've been following my model, and I haven't let losses discourage me. I've won from losses, ultimately, because we're learning and we're adapting. So something else that you can notice is that I'm locking out after one trade. I take trades I'm confident in and that I risk correctly, right? I constantly have my risk management plan in mind. I risk $500 per trade, ideally. And something that I do learn over the course of this month is my stop loss placement. Like, as you can see here, my stop loss should have gone below this level probably. But again, I was trading on my phone, so I'll give myself grace with that. So next is the 21st, and I end up winning again. This was a perfect setup. Oh my goodness. If we could get setups like this every day, it was just, what ended up happening is I believe okay, so basically off open or prior to open, right around here was London high. We kind of take London high pre-market, and I'm like, okay, whatever. We create a 15-minute gap. We retrace into that 15-minute gap, and that was my condition, right? I set conditions for myself to trade, and the 15-minute gap for me was like, okay, if we're gonna inverse this 15-minute, we're going lower. If we are going to respect the 15-minute, we're going higher. And we retrace into it. We get these really nice displacing candles right here on this move and create a 1-minute IFVG. To me, that indicates that we are going to go at least to this buy side level. And I don't remember what my bias was on the day. I think it was, it's not letting me scroll up. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I was neutral on the day. Anyway, yeah, this was a perfect A+ setup, and I just really loved the IFVG here. We displaced, I think, 60 points in these two candles, really indicating that we want to go higher. I entered, and I targeted a 1-to-1, and this was beautiful continuation long trade. So, moving on to Thursday. I just want to make sure I'm still recording. Okay. Moving on to Thursday, this was another loss, and this loss was, I believe, an overextended trade. And this is kind of where I start to learn that overextended trades I need to stay out of. So I ended up taking 2 trades on this day. I really liked this long here. I don't have it marked on the screenshot, but I believe that this low was, yeah, it was a pre-market low, and it was an 830 low, and it coincided with a 1-hour gap tap. And then we also had an SMT, I believe, And then we create this really strong displacing candle with an inversion. I really like this trade and I entered long. The only issue with this trade is that the indexes were kind of uncorrelated. While we were down here, ES was already at this high. And when ES, my rule is that when ES takes this high, I either go break even or I close the position. It's kind of a little bit more discretional, but like we were right here when ES was all the way at the high. And when we took the high on ES, I just went break even because my logical break even point was probably this candle or this candle. And we didn't get either of that. So I just knew that like if the bearish S&T was gonna play out, it would play out right now. And so I'm glad I managed that the way I did. But then I ended up losing on my second trade. I do have a 2 trade limit. But honestly, this was a little bit of me breaking my rules because I overtraded. But anyway, as you can see, I kind of traded in chop. It kind of was a flop because I traded in chop. But on the move itself, we had made a 15-minute gap tap. We immediately react off this, creating a really nice 30-second IFVG and a CISD. And I ended up entering long, targeting London low. However, again, we were overextended. By this point, we had dumped 200 points on this day. And I just need to remember that, again, when we dump so much, shorts are less probable. We need a proper entry with actual draws. Like the fact that we are chopping this much indicates that, like, there could be an AMD setup, like by manipulating this way and then distributing lower. However, it's just extremely less probable when we're this overextended. We want to rebalance higher before going lower when we're in bearish structure. So it doesn't matter how many confluences there are, because I basically I journaled this, and there technically were 6 confluences. We had a bearish SMT, we had opposing liquidity, we broke structure, we tapped a gap, etc., etc. But those confluences didn't matter when we were so overextended high time frame. So that is why I lost on that trade. And now going into this day, this was the following week on Monday. I did not trade on that Friday. The following Monday, I took a break even setup, and this was so beautiful. I was so frustrated with this break even because it's just, you have to hate when it hits your break even and then immediately rips to your TP. It's just like, this was a winning trade. I'm sorry, this was a winning trade. If you didn't take this trade, you're a moron. If you missed this trade, take notes. I don't know. Like, it's just, so off the open, we dump lower. We tap a 15-minute gap, a 5-minute gap. We sweep some pre-market lows. We immediately react off this in this 30-second candle. This was the highest time frame inversion from the manipulation leg. Was a very nice inversion. I go long, and this was around a 2-to-1 RR. We sweep the break even. It taps my break even, and then we rip higher. Nothing I can do about that at all. I'm very proud of myself for not re-entering out of FOMO, because there was no valid re-entry. I must admit that there was another setup on this day that I didn't end up taking. It was this long. However, at this point, we were pretty overextended as well. And so by this point, I kind of have learned my lesson. I'm like, okay, I'm not taking overextended trades. And I must admit that, like, I journaled this one, and I think that this one was a little bit more valid because it had some additional confluences, and there were not as many opposing confluences for this trade. I kind of try to weigh bullish and bearish when I'm taking the trade. So I journaled this, and I kind of learned from it, but ultimately this was the trade of the day for sure. Now going into Tuesday of this week, the 27th, I ended up winning, and let me see, I ended up taking 2 trades. So this was the first trade I took. It was a 3-minute inversion off manipulation into London low and into untapped gaps. This was beautiful. I really liked this. However, my break even was the 5-minute gap in the range, and we hit my break even, or we tapped the 5-minute gap and rejected it instantly. So I got break even on this trade. And then I found another valid re-entry when we inverse the 5-minute. I told myself this 5-minute is the condition that is either going to send us lower or going to break higher. I felt very confident in longs. I was extremely bullish on this day. So all I really wanted to see was a 5-minute inversion to go long, and that's exactly what happened. I entered long here, and I targeted relative equal highs, and it was an extremely easy trade. Um, so yeah, by this point, I'm starting to gain confidence because I've just been extremely patient throughout this process. I've been executing on good setups and been staying disciplined, staying out of improbable conditions, um, like those overextended setups that I mentioned. Um, and yeah, so um, now moving on to Wednesday. And Wednesday, I ended up taking two trades again. And honestly, I must admit that this Wednesday was kind of a sloppy trading day for me because it was pre FOMC. FOMC automatically makes the morning less probable. However, I'm not necessarily opposed to taking a trade if I see something that is high probable for me. Um, but overall, this was kind of crazy. So what happened was the first trade I took two trades. The first trade I took was this 3-minute inversion off open. We sweep the pre-market low and we immediately rip higher. I really like this displacing candle right here. And so I entered long targeting London high. And the only issue with this trade is that my first logical break-even spot would be this wick right here, and we already took it. However, this was also like a break of structure, so I told myself, okay, I can just use this next wick as my break-even. And we wicked the break-even and basically started dumping immediately. This was like a 5-second trade. Once we wicked the break-even, I moved my stop loss, and boom, it automatically took me out, and I technically lost $100 on that trade because I wasn't able to move to break even fast enough. So that's fine because the second trade ended up winning. And I must admit, this was kind of lucky because the intermediate low I have marked out on screen. It was a 15-minute intermediate low. And I must have marked it out wrong because I later checked and it actually was equal lows. We had not swept the low. So yeah, I'll have to make sure I am more careful with that. But anyway, we made a really nice 2-minute inversion. I entered mid candle because I was very confident that we would get the inversion, and I targeted the 15-minute intermediate high here for easy profit. And I top ticked it. So feeling, you know, it was a little lucky, but overall was a pretty good trade. And I kind of realized I shouldn't have taken anything on this day. So I kind of disciplined myself. I kind of broke my rules a little bit. Was still able to end the day green, was slightly lucky, but I will take what I can get. So that is all of my current trades up until this point. This next clip should be the rest of my trades that led me to a payout. So I will catch you guys then. All right, boys, we're back, and we secured the payout. So just to give you some proof, this is my Top Step account dashboard. The current balance is at 2167. That is the amount that I requested for my first payout. And I just wanted to go over the stats with y'all. These are the stats from January. And then this is the first week of February. And Friday, the 6th, is the day that this last clip is being uploaded. And I just thought that we would get right into it. So the trade where we left off was Friday, January 30th, and I took a loss on this day. And in my opinion, this was a statistical loss. I thought that this was a really clean trade. I'll explain it in a second, but I was neutral going into the day, and we were kind of chopping high time frames, so this was perhaps a sign that I should not have gone and taken this trade. However, the rejection we got, to me, indicated that we wanted to go lower. Off open, we kind of chopped before open, and off open we swept data high, we swept this 1 hour intermediate high, which is the high inside the fair value gap, and then we strongly reject. We didn't even make a 1-minute inversion, we made a 30-second inversion, and I entered targeting data low, and I got stopped. I was going to put my break even at this swing low right here, and honestly, like, I went back and when I was journaling, I was thinking, should I have put my break even at the 930 low right here? But it was just so soon before entry, and I had conviction that if we were going to go to data low and if my trade idea were to be correct, then I would expect that this internal low get taken. And ultimately it didn't. If you traded this on this Friday, the January 30th, you know that this was choppy price action. We kind of just chopped around forever. We ultimately did end up delivering to data low, so my draw on liquidity was correct. It's just my entry was statistically wrong. But I'm still proud of the way I executed this trade because I followed my rules. I did everything I needed to do. Again, I was unsure if I needed to move to break even earlier, but I felt confident in the trade, so I was willing to accept this loss. The next trade I ended up taking was on Wednesday of this week, and it was a break even trade. Honestly, this was a pretty sloppy execution, I must admit. So, as you can see here, this screenshot is awful, but we swept lower, we chopped for a while, we went lower again, and mind you, this move lower was like pretty big. It was like 150, 200 points, and I was going into the day bearish, so I really should have only been looking to take shorts as I was seeing this leg down. But I did see that we formed a bullish SMT with ES as we were forming this, and we formed a really strong 1 minute IFVG. I entered mid candle. I also accidentally over risked. I risked 8 micros, and the move was happening extremely quickly, so I kind of just didn't have enough time to really consider my risk, and that's a big problem that I have and that I need to work on is calculating my risk appropriately and not over risking when I see the move happening. Um, I should really just make sure to prioritize risk management over getting the better entry, and I'm still working on that. It's a work in progress, but overall, we we got a nice reaction off this bullish SMT because ES swept this 930 low, so NQ was technically the more bullish index. And I took this 1 minute IFVG. What I did not realize at the time was that we were inside a 2 minute as well. We were inside a 2 minute inverse, and so, or excuse me, a 2 minute gap, and so I just went break even the moment I saw that because I should have waited for the 2 minute anyway. I didn't even see that when I was taking this trade. So again, I kind of just rushed into this trade without even thinking like high time frame. Like I need to like look at the highest time frame inversion, and I need to risk appropriately, and et cetera, et cetera. But I basically got insta stopped break even, and I ultimately saw another trade that did end up playing out. It helped me build my discretion for continuations because I don't really love continuation trading, but this was a really nice continuation short. It was actually what stopped me out break even on this trade. And we got a 30-second flip off the 2 minute gap tap, and that would have been a really nice trade to this high time frame sell side here. But ultimately, it helped build my discretion for continuations. So next is this Thursday trade. I ended up winning on Thursday. It was my first win in a while, so it helped give me some confidence. And I really liked this trade. It was a little bit more discretional. So what ended up happening was we swept pre-market liquidity off open, and we end up forming this 1 minute gap right here. And I was looking to see it get inversed with an entry. We end up breaking structure to the upside on this 100 point candle on the 1 minute time frame. That is absolutely insane. 100 points in 1 minute. That to me just indicates we are extremely, extremely bullish. So I just waited for a pullback to this area of interest. I was going to enter right around this line right here. If it initially gave me an entry, so I wanted to wait until it retested that area. And the moment it retested, I entered. This was an absolutely beautiful trade. There was basically like 1 second of drawdown, and that was it. And then I targeted the untapped 1 hour for around a 1.5, around a 1.5 RR. And I risked 3 micros because we've been extremely volatile recently, and I believe my stop was like 70 points. So that was another straightforward trade. And then this trade that I took today's Friday the 6th, was my biggest trade ever. And I copy traded it across my XFA as well as some new evals that I got. And it was a 3.5 risk to reward trade. And in my opinion, it was extremely high confluence. I technically did, I don't want to say break one of my rules, but like I used my discretion to break one of my rules. And it was kind of the same thing with this trade as well. Like I entered off the pullback into this 1 minute fair value gap, and that is not normally how I enter. My main entry model is entering off the inversion. However, we did not have the opportunity to enter off the inversion. We were too overextended by this point. RR would have sucked, so I needed to wait for a pullback in order to get the better entry. And it's kind of the same thing here. But anyway, let me just explain. So I was bullish going into the day, but I saw a lot of people had mixed bias or a bearish bias. But I honestly could see either way. We had targets above and we had targets below. So I kind of just wanted to see how the market moved off open. And off open, we swept this 15-minute intermediate low and tapped a unfilled 1 hour gap. And we immediately react off it. Basically, like, so let me just walk through this. So we were forming this candle, right? And in the last 10 seconds, we shoot up all the way from down here to up here. And this, when we were up here, which is where my entry was, we had like 10 seconds to candle close. And I was like, I basically felt so confident that this would get inversed. It was a tiny 3-minute gap, but it was still a 3-minute gap nonetheless. And we just reacted so nicely off the higher time frame gaps. So I knew immediately that we were probably going to go to this untapped 4 hour. So I entered with 10 seconds to candle close on this candle, moved to break even immediately, and ended up getting 1.7K on this trade. Something I want to say is that because I was copy trading evals, I kind of when I was trading, I kind of got a little bit emotional just because I was trading evals. And if you know Top Step evals, Top Step has a 50% consistency rule. And what that means is that you can't have a winning day over $1,500 on the combine. And my main target was going to be this untapped 4 hour, but that was like a 2.1K profit. So I did not want to like be over consistency by a whole bunch, but I should have just targeted it anyway because I could have just like lost $600 on the eval to get to 1,500, but ultimately it was a learning lesson. Anyway, I risked 12 micros. I had a 20-point stop and I think a 670-ish, 73 point take profit. And this was an absolutely insane trade. It hit in like 1 minute. Same with the one from Thursday. They both hit in 1 minute. And I'm just feeling extremely proud for how far I've come. I've developed my discretion. I've followed my rules. I've stayed disciplined. I've been patient. I have been showing up consistently every single day to repeat the same system and process that I know is profitable, that I know works. And ultimately, I've gotten results. I am scaling up to 5 accounts right now, and I'm going to just continue to focus on putting in the inputs that I know are needed in order to succeed, which is everything that I just described, as well as emotional management. And, that involves knowing that losing trades are okay. Like, I was not deterred by this loss that I had on Friday because I was so close to my payout on last week and I ended up losing on Friday. And I'm like, okay, whatever, let's just come back into next week. And this week, honestly, has been pretty slow. I mean, Monday was no trades. Tuesday was no trades. Wednesday was a sloppy trade, and the price action I didn't really love that much on Wednesday either. Thursday was nice, and then Friday, obviously, I ended up taking a really nice win today. So this is my first payout. I'm going to try to not let it get to me. I'm going to try to stay humble and continue to just stay locked in, doing the exact same thing that I have been doing in order to get this first payout. And I think I'm going to do a challenge for myself to get 50K. I'm going to challenge myself to get 50K. I'm going to do a weekly challenge, and I'm going to record myself every day going over my trades and filming like my journey to 50K. So if you guys are interested in that, please feel free to subscribe. Stay tuned for those videos. I'll be posting them weekly, and feel free to give me a like and comment for any feedback that you want to see from me. And yeah, guys, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.